Interview for Tuesday the 12th.
Interest has been growing in recent months over a phenomena called psychic phenomena, extrasensory perception, parapsychology, if you will. And this week we're taking a look at extrasensory perception, parapsychology, and fields that are related to this. And our guest is David St. Clair, who is an author who has written a number of books on the subject and is consented to be with us this week to tell us a little bit about his experiences. David, first of all, the role of energy is all important in parapsychology and psychic phenomena. Explain, if you will, how energy comes into this.
Well, I believe that we're all energy, and physicists believe the same thing. This beautiful table here, for instance, is molecules and atoms. It's holding the wood particles together. If you took this table and shook it, you would eventually get to the place, if you shook it hard enough or spun it, that the molecules and the atoms would disintegrate and you would lose its shape. But yet the energy that held this together would still remain. So we are energy. A psychic, a healer, works on the energy that it gets from out here. Now, comes from God, comes from what I like to call the cosmic forces, for lack of a better name. It does not come from the devil, by the way, even though apparently the devil is alive and very well in the Mahoning Valley. But it's not powers of the devil. It's energy that we all can use and we all can tap. And we should use it because it can help us in our everyday lives.
How do we use it? How do we make ourselves more receptible to these energy forces and use them to our advantage?
By listening.
Okay. When you say listen, what do you hear? What should we hear when we listen?
Well, it's like when we hear, like we get an idea, and all of a sudden we say, hey, I've got an idea. Well, no one ever stops to think, where did you get the idea? Is J.C. Penney's having a sale on ideas, or you're walking down the street and there's an idea, say, hey lady, you dropped your idea. No, you don't do it that way. You listen. All of a sudden, here's this completely alien thought. You're thinking about something else, and suddenly it comes crashing in. And you say, hey, that's great. I got an idea. And you go and tell everybody, I got this great idea. You listen the same way that a television set, like people who are watching me right now, that television set is not editorializing. It is not capturing and transmitting anything but this energy that is a TV signal that's going through the set. And the set listens, and we listen. We put our conscious mind aside, and we listen to the information that we get. And there is information out there for all of us.
There are different levels of energy that are involved here, too. Can you explain what the different levels are?
Well, your first level, of course, would be your own body energy, or your own aura, if you will. And the very basic energy, of course, is the energy that is inside me right now that is powering this body. Because when this energy leaves that's powering this body, I'm going to become a dead piece of meat, but that energy is going to go on someplace else. There is the energy that comes from up here, where I don't know, maybe 3 inches over your head or maybe 50 million miles from up there, that is constantly giving us ideas. We can tune into it. It's like a great big telephone switchboard in the sky. We need to know anything, all we've got to do is really have the plug in and know how to dial the number. And we can get all kinds of information. The other kind of energy that we're dealing with is a healing energy, where, once again, the body is used as a battery. And the energy comes from out here, goes into the healer's body, and then the healer in turn sends it out of his hands into the person who's ill. And then their auric energy captures that energy and starts transmitting it to the place in the body that is ill.
Have you ever healed anyone?
Yes.
Could I heal someone?
Sure. All you've got to do is believe you can do it, and learn how to charge your body up to such an extent that you have captured some of that outside energy until you've become a battery. You bring it in, and then you zap it out of your hands into the person who's ill.
You mean, when you say zap, could you actually see sparks or things coming out?
A friend of mine, a Brazilian healer, a very good Brazilian healer, Alberto Aguas, was recently filmed in London by the BBC. And they surprised him by turning off all the lights and filming him with infrared camera. And they were stunned when they ran the videotape back to see the sparks coming up out of his hands, to see like 3 neon tubes of light running around this lady's body. And then there was a great big energy circle sometimes as big as a basketball, or sometimes only about as small as a grape, that was around his head and would diminish. And he was not surprised. He said, I've known it's there all the time. He said, just waiting for somebody to photograph it.
And this same energy force is available to all of us that we can
Any
employ.
of us, to any of us. All we've got to do is plug in. Plug in and use it. It's ours.
Fascinating. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Thank
We're
you.
going to be continuing our series of interviews this week with David St. Clair, an author and person who has been able to use his psychic skills to best advantage in showing us how we might be able to use them to ours.